the Fit Dads podcast. My name's Ryan Dutton. I'm joined by Brad Thompson. Here is the Fit Dads inaugural Q&A podcast. You ask, we answer. We've got some great questions this week, including our top 30-minute gym routines, ACL recoveries, our thoughts on voice notes, and whether we have any tattoos, Brad. So we're going to get into those. Expect a quick fire episode. But before we get into today, if you guys are enjoying the podcast and you're getting a lot of value, we'd love for you to share it with friends and family. So we've created a new hashtag, haven't we, Brad?
We have.
Hashtag fitdads. What is it?
Forward the Fit Dads.
Forward the Fit Dads.
Forward
That's
the Fit
it.
Dads.
Hashtag forward the Fit Dads. So if there's someone you know who will really enjoy the episodes and get a lot from it, please share it, whether that's through social media, direct message them. There is lots of links to share the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. So we'd love that, and it'd be a great help for us growing the podcast and obviously reaching a bigger audience, really.
100%.
Fantastic. Let's get into the episode. So let's start, mate. How's your week been?
It's been good. Been to my brother's wedding.
That's right, yes.
Over in Wales. Gorgeous, mate. Yeah, really, really nice. They did a good job. It was a nice, like, small, intimate wedding. But yeah, did amazing. I don't really know Wales that well. I think on previous episode, you and Ryan Hall were talking about Wales, and I sort of zoned out a little bit.
Whereabouts in Wales is it?
Like Gower, near Swansea.
Okay.
It's an area of outstanding beauty, and it were gorgeous. Like, really, really good. Although it did involve 6.5 hours there with Teddy in tow.
Wow.
In a car, which it would cracking, to be honest.
And Wales was that far away?
I think South Wales.
Maybe Swansea's a bit further.
It's almost like on a little peninsula where we went, so it were like really South Wales.
Right.
But amazing. One thing I did want to mention as well is we got Teddy this like little arm that he could put his tablet on, like this extendable arm.
Okay.
And he was good as gold. Like, he must have gone on his tablet for like 2 or 3 hours of the journey.
Like
but
attached to the seat kind of thing?
Yeah, attached on my seat behind, because, you know, my wife's a better driver, so.
I think you're asking for a recipe for disaster there, mate. Yeah. If he starts slamming on that in your chair, 6.5 hours of him smashing on that tray.
He did all right, though. So, yeah, and we stopped off. I can't believe I'm talking about service station on the podcast. We stopped off at Gloucester Services, and it was unreal.
Gloucester Services.
Services. It's like farm shop and everything. It's,
you're
it's
getting
amazing.
old, mate, when the services are starting to really do it for you.
They were exciting. Play area and everything.
Was there?
Yeah, okay. So you're excited.
Wow,
aren't you?
Okay. Yeah. Does pique my interest.
He's into this. So, yeah, shout out to my client Alice, who recommended that. She goes down to Cornwall a lot, and she's like, stop. Gloucester, it's the one. And I can confirm. They were amazing. But
I mean, I feel like I need to go to the service station just to check it out now.
Good day out, yeah. Good day out. What about you, mate? How's your week?
Yeah, it's been good. Not too bad. And a very nice chilled weekend with the family. With the Sheffield Half Marathon this weekend just gone. Had a few clients running that, and they all absolutely smashed it. Couldn't be more proud, impressed, inspired actually of their kind of achievements this weekend. So I actually went out for a run last night, and I was just fueled by the kind of hype of them watching them. You know, because you go to these events, and I've seen the missus obviously run her half marathon in Manchester. And I'm just amazed at the amount of people that do it, and the different body shapes, and how people, no matter how fit or in shape they are, they still give it the best go, and everyone completes it, I think, pretty much. So I was really inspired, and racked up 7.5k last night, which is, for me, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking in the back of my mind as I got towards the end of the run, oh my God, it's like another 2 of those for a half marathon, and another 5 of those for a full marathon.
It's crazy, isn't it?
So there's a long way to go, mate, before I start thinking about it. But funnily enough, on the way back, me and the missus did say, next year, you know, if I'm in a place where my knees are pretty good, back's feeling okay, racking up some miles, I might give it a go, you know. Might give it a go.
It's High Rocks first for you, though, isn't it?
High Rocks first, yes, in October. So get that out of the way. Hopefully the fitness levels will be kind of peaking come that point. If I can do a bit of winter running, then maybe next year, hopefully, Sheffield Half Marathon. But we'll see. There's a long way to go, mate.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers
crossed.
I probably should also mention as well, nothing says Fit Dads podcast like starting something I've been putting off for a while, actually. I've started some hair loss treatment, believe it or not, mate. Yeah, and I really didn't want to. You don't want to accept it, do you? I've known for a few years the hairline's getting further and further back. Full back's pushing on a little bit now, and it's been a long time overdue, but it feels like a really old step to be taken when you start losing your hair. And I know that I'm 32, like, you know, sometimes lads are going to get, guys lose their hair in the 20s sometimes, don't they? So I've had a pretty good run. Considering if you look at my dad's side of the family, all the guys are bald. The family photos is just all bald, and then me and my 3 brothers at the front with hair. So we've done pretty well to go this long, I think. I think most of them went bald in the 20s, but do you know what the big thing is, mate? Actually, the podcast. Looking back over the footage.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
I'm like, because obviously I do a lot of the editing, and I look back and I'm just noticing more and more hair dropping out. I'm like, right, I really need to start doing this. And there's a guy I follow online called Brian Johnson. Have you heard of Brian Johnson?
Maybe.
He's a fascinating character he's basically a tech, I think he was a tech billionaire, and he spends £1 million a month trying to be younger and reverse the aging process.
Wow.
And he had a little kind of reel on Instagram about hair loss, and one of the things he said was, even if you show small signs of hair loss, the sooner you get on those kind of products and start working to correct it, the more successful it's going to be in terms of reducing it. You don't want to wait until all the follicles have fallen out. No, you want to try and get kind of more follicles kind of moving through. So that inspired me to be like, actually, I don't want to go any further back. Even though it's thinning on top a little bit at the front, let's start getting some kind of something in place to kind of reduce that.
Is it a bit too much information to ask like what you're thinking about doing? Is it any, I don't know, like, so I think there's things like minoxidil and stuff, which
that's
is like
that's exactly what it is. Yeah. So it's really good because there's quite a lot of different companies now that do it, and because these things kind of have to be prescribed, they are kind of doctor driven. So you go onto these websites and they ask you a small questionnaire about kind of what you've done in the past, whether you've got itchy skin and dry scalps. One of the questions is in terms of priority, because one of the side effects of taking these drugs is your hair might start to fall out more when you first start taking it.
Wow.
Which really put me off. I was like, I don't want to go for this process of taking the medicine, lose quite a lot of hair. And I understand what basically happens is the process is they're trying to get blood supply to these kind of very dwindling hair follicles. So what happens is you take this medication, it increases blood flow, but when you increase blood flow, it pushes out the old follicles to push the new ones through. So part of the process, and if you actually have some hair loss initially, apparently it's a good thing. But I was like, I don't want to turn up onto the podcast with a monk cut.
I know what you mean.
So I said, right, I definitely don't want hair loss to be part of the initial thing if you can reduce it. So they said, don't go for the spray because you can put this spray on there. Just go for the tablets. I'm on these tablets now. Tablets and shampoo, mate. So
tablets and shampoo.
God, I sound well old, mate. This isn't a conversation I ever thought I was going to have. But
we've touched on service stations and hair loss. I feel like
it's
ages, isn't it?
It's the Fit Dads podcast. Well, we are talking about real life events of being dads in their early 30s, and both of those things, unfortunately, are part of it.
Mate, I'm sure young dads listening will be like, oh, this is it. This is my future. Service stations and hair loss.
Saddle up, lads. Saddle up.
Long journey. But.
Right, should we get into some questions then? What's the first one we had?
Mate, we'll start off with voice notes because you're probably the number one person I voice note right now.
Yeah, we have a lot of voice notes.
I really like it. And I feel like expectation management's important with voice notes. So somebody asked, voice notes, yes or no?
I've seen so many people get very opinionated about voice notes online, like polls on stories, and people going off on kind of rants on their social media about it. But honestly, I love a voice note. I think it's quite personal. I think as long as you're keeping it under a minute, 2 minutes, it's all right. I mean, from my voice notes, I ramble sometimes and I go off on tangents, but I do try and keep them under kind of a minute, 2 minutes if I can. But yeah, keep them short, keep them sweet. Sometimes a message can take up so much text, whereas a voice note you can say a multitude of things in a short amount of time. So I'm all for voice notes, mate. Don't be hating on voice notes.
No, same. I think if you're bothered about voice notes, I think you probably need to lay down the law a little bit. Like there's a running joke with my clients where I've said to them, listen, keep it a minute, right? Anything over a minute, I don't want you booking out time.
Do you get voice notes from clients?
Yeah, but even mine.
So is that because you send them first?
Yeah.
Do you start kind of...
And again, it's more time efficient for me, and that's something that people say, like, great for the sender, not great if you're receiving them, because if you're working, you don't want your phone next to your ear, like, listening to some...
True.
But there's a reason why...
That has been one of the issues, I would say, with the voice notes that we've had sometimes. I'll be in, like, the car or something, and a voice note comes through, and I kind of want to play it, but I also don't want it on the Bluetooth, and I want to hear your voice.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a reason why there's a 1.5 speed on there.
Oh, is there? There's 1.5 speed?
Oh,
I didn't know that.
No, on WhatsApp, if you click on it at the side, this might be my confession to you that I might 1.5 you.
I'm a bit fucking slow, man.
But right hand side, you can 1.5 speed
mate,
it.
Bang me up to times 2, mate, because honestly, I talk slow at the best of times.
Or 2 speed. But I'm all for it. I think, again, if you're struggling with it, have a chat with that person and be like, mate, I don't want War and Peace. Do you know what I mean? I've had people like sit down with a notepad and write down note so they can reply to me. And that's just on a minute voice note, and I'm like, ooh, right.
I guess the only time I don't like voice notes is if there's something that I know that person's going to have to use, copy and paste. I mean, you can't copy and paste off a voice note. So, but yeah, voice notes are cool, man.
Yeah, I like them.
Don't be on on voice notes.
No, don't do that. Should we go in with another light-hearted one, mate, before we jump into some heavy
let's go
stuff?
on another light-hearted question.
Somebody else asked, do you have any tattoos? Which is a very niche question. I didn't expect this one to come through.
When you told me about this one, I was a bit like, is someone getting a little bit out of this? There's a bit of a fetish going on here.
Maybe somebody just wants you to take your top off.
Basically, take your tops off, lads. Let's see what you've got going. I've got a few. Have you got any?
I've got one. So this is probably a quick one for me.
Okay.
I've got one, and I had it, back end of last year.
Right.
Yeah, so I had one quite late. I knew I always wanted them, but I could never decide. And then when Teddy were born, I've never told this story. I changed my mind on my tattoo the night before I had it.
Whoa.
About what I wanted.
Yeah, that was some serious overthinking.
Yeah,
you were up late last night, weren't you?
I'm glad I did it. Like, I'm glad that I decided what I want. It's basically Teddy's date of birth, but just like the 12/9, like Teddy was born on 12th of September 2020. But I decided to leave off 2020. It's in Roman numerals, and I thought it looked quite good, short and sweet.
Brilliant. Where is it?
Literally on my side. So it's on my torso, out of the way.
Great.
Yeah, it might be
cool little David Beckham style on the side.
Yeah. There'll be some family members being like, Brad's got a tattoo.
Yeah,
I guarantee, because I can't remember what I've told.
Really? Not told you?
I can't remember what I've told. No.
Brilliant. I think that's funny to mention as well, because I think every guy, when they get tattoos, thinks they look like David Beckham.
Yeah.
Because even now at his age, he looks cool. And
he does look cool.
But a photo of him with these like hand tattoos in a suit, I'm like, that guy's such a geezer, isn't he?
He is a geezer.
So good. But he... Yeah, I've got a few. I've got a funny story actually about my first one. So the first one I got was on my ankle. Me and a friend were at university. We just got our first student loan. You know, you get a big lump sum. You're like, right, let's blow it on stupid stuff that we'd never need or use, and waste as much money as possible.
Yep.
So we decided to get tattoos. He got one on his ribs. I decided I was going to get this cool like Celtic circle on my ankle. And I'll never forget the moment when I went back to the house in university, and I lived with a few of the football lads. And you know what, like, socials like, and football lads are like, you know, they speak their mind essentially.
Just lay into you.
And basically, I'll show you it. As soon as they saw it, they went, "Why have you got the Pizza Express tattoo on your ankle?" And for the listeners at home, you can see that that's pretty much what it looks like. I had no idea. It's essentially the Pizza Express logo.
That's pretty savage banter from uni football boys.
So I went over there, bouncing back to the house like, "Lads, I've got a tattoo. It's sick. Look at this." And they're like, "Pizza Express, that man." How much do you get paid for that on promo?
Yeah.
So yeah, but I've got a few others. I've got one on my leg that I got done in Amsterdam. There's a guy in Amsterdam that I've been to a few times to get some tattoos. I wish he lived closer, because I'd probably get more. But he's fantastic, and I've got a couple on my back as well. My mum actually paid for one, believe it or not.
Is she?
Yeah, it was for my 18th or no, it's for my 21st. It was one on my back, like an angel with some wings. But yeah, I've got a few. I actually want more. I do. I want some on my arms, and I want maybe potentially a sleeve one day. But I'm also well aware that we've just gone from talking about hair loss to now getting sleeves. It's too pretty opposing.
It is.
Images there, isn't it? You know, so maybe sort my hair out first to look a little bit more youthful before I start getting sleeves.
No, I mean, I'll be honest, I would like more. As again, venturing onto arms maybe, but again, it's that I'm quite indecisive when it comes to that, and it didn't hurt as much as I thought, actually. I thought it'd hurt loads more.
I always find with tattoos, the first 10 minutes is the worst. But once they've been over the kind of lines and you've kind of got used to the pain, it goes numb a little bit. I mean, I actually, on the one on my leg, I fell asleep for about 10 minutes. Yeah, I was really tired. I mean, look, we were in Amsterdam, and there might have been a few things being consumed over there.
Yeah.
So,
when do you fell asleep?
I was a bit tired while that was going on.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But I got a few tattoos. But do you want any more? Would you get any more?
I would, yeah. I don't know what, because I've always said, like, I want something really deep and meaningful. So, I don't know. I'd like to have something.
I think with the tattoos, you just got to... Sometimes the deep and meaningful ones, you can overthink them. They can be too much of a mismatch. Yeah. Some of the best tattoos I've seen are just where it's a really cool, like, dragon on the side, or like some koi carp or something. Like, probably means nothing to him. It just looks cool.
I've got a good mate who's, like, covered in tattoos. I will shout him out, actually, Danny Andrews. And he regularly, like, brings, like, felt tips for Teddy just to draw him in.
Oh, really?
So when he was
That's
younger,
really cool.
Teddy would just
That's
like
a great
drawing
idea.
on his own, like it keeps him quiet.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So it's class.
So they have to go home and wipe it all off.
Yeah, I think
He's not bringing permanent markers.
Nah, it makes it look pretty good, to be fair. But,
Yeah.
But no, mate, that's it for me. You said you wanted some more, but
Yeah. Should we move on to the next one? Next question.
Shall we? We've got down here, how do we show our kids that exercise is fun and not a chore?
Ooh, good question. I mean, literally that.
Yeah.
Make it fun.
Yeah.
Make it gamify it.
Smile through the pain.
Yeah. Make it competition based. Guys, like little lads especially, love the competition element. Like it's me versus you. It's me versus my dad.
Yeah.
And if they can get one over on you, and you can kind of just let them win a race or something, or do a skill based task where you put them ahead, I think that goes a long way in terms of them being like, actually, I can do this, and it builds confidence as well.
100%.
So make it fun without a shadow of a doubt, for sure.
I like doing big events, and like I was determined as soon as I sorted my back out, which I'll probably talk about in another episode. But I wanted Teddy to see me do events, whether it's something like runs or playing football or just something where he can sort of see that actually it's not a chore. There's an experience to this, and I'm having a good time doing it. It's worth almost that. It's a privilege in a way. Like personally, I've not been able to run for 3 or 4 years. So to do the Chesterfield 10K that I did recently.
What's the reason for that?
I think I might have mentioned this on podcast before, but I've got an autoimmune condition called...
That's right, of course.
Called axial spondyloarthritis, which is
have.
basically like arthritis in my lower back.
So that's what stopped you, was it?
Yeah.
What's been the big difference then between then and now in terms of its recovery? Is it new medication? Or
medication, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it's something. It's like an organic treatment. So I was determined. I was like, I'm not having painkillers. I refuse to have them. I'm like, I'm not doing it because I'm just masking pain that should be there. It's this biologic treatment. I'm going really boring now, mate. I'm really sorry.
No, I'm interested because my back's not in a great place. So any back info is welcome.
So anything autoimmune conditions, my body overproduces a certain protein when I eat certain foods, which causes it to like attack itself. So this medication basically changes every cell in my body to not attack itself, which is weird. It's like
all natural.
Yeah, it's like a fortnightly injection that I have to take, but it's not a painkiller. So it's technically classed as medication, but it alters if I'm getting this right, it alters like my cell structure. So my body doesn't perceive this overproduction of protein as a foreign invader and attack itself and cause inflammation.
Amazing.
It's crazy. Like
modern medicine is just unbelievable, isn't it? And how long have you been on that now? About a year?
A bit less than a year. Probably 6 months.
How long did it take to kick in before you were like, this is doing something?
I say almost instantly, a couple of weeks.
Was it?
Yeah. And they have said like when you get older, because it's a lifetime treatment, like when you get older, it could drop off a little bit, like the effects.
Right.
So I sort of see events and exercise as like a bit of a privilege now because I couldn't do stuff.
Do you see it as like a bit of a time frame of being like, well, maybe what can I do now while it's working well?
I didn't, but now I do. Now that you've filled me with dread with that.
Sorry, mate. I only say that because I had a bit of a meltdown at 30 where I was like, shit, this is the decade.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to do anything with my body, I'm going to push it because I know when you get to 40, that next decade, things start to slow down a bit. Yeah. Obviously, testosterone now is quite compromised. So this is the decade now where I'm recovering better. Yeah. I understand my body, and I'm still fighting a few things, but
no, I try and see it as a privilege, and I think Teddy's sensing that now. He sees it that it's quite a lucky thing that I've got this ability to run again and do what I do for work and just be. I think I've said this before, like when you get to a certain age, probably from 25 plus, you start seeing like maybe potentially some mates or people your age, and you start seeing this gap between people who are really fit and people who just aren't arsed. And all of a sudden, it's tough to see sometimes because you see some really close people around you who just maybe look older than what the years actually are just because they don't look after themselves. Yeah. It's really hard to see. So I've always seen it as like a privilege that I can do this.
You can sometimes see it in your friends' faces, can't you? Like there's a look of unhealthy, isn't there? There's a certain look when it's like pale skin, potentially some acne and bumpy skin. Yep. You can just tell when someone looks not quite right. It doesn't have to be a weight thing. You can see it in someone's face. Yeah. But coming back to what you said about being privileged, I think what a fantastic way of kind of letting kids understand it as well, because if you can let kids and your own child know your story a little bit, they might then see, okay, well, my dad's going through this. That's potentially what might happen in the future. They might then start taking sports and exercise and movement a little bit more seriously. It might be something as simple as you're getting in shape now, and your kids can see you getting in shape, but you really emphasise like, Dad wasn't always like this. There was a point when Dad couldn't go up and down them stairs without being out of breath. I couldn't chase you out the park. Let the kids, I think, maybe know your story and what you're doing and where you've come from and why you're doing it as well.
Because for me, it's genetical as well. So for me to understand it more and to tell Ted that like you could actually go through this as well. Wow. So to teach him about what it is.
Heavy at his age, I guess, right now. But,
but he will. I'll tell him when he's a little bit older and just get the point across that this could actually happen to you, and here's how you can let it not stop you, and just sort of push forward from that.
I'm trying to think what the original question was. The original question, and we're going off a tangent as we always do.
Yeah.
It was, remind me.
How to make exercise fun, not a chore.
Fun, not a chore. Yeah, I think we've hopefully kind of summed that up in terms of making it fun, making it competition based. Actually, also working out what your child is into. Yeah. Because not every kid's into the same thing. No. And we've mentioned this on a previous episode, but just exploring different sports, taking them to as many different classes as possible. I've had so many parents who've come to me and they'll reel off stories about how they've been to like gymnastics and dancing, and they've been to, I don't know, football and hockey, and then all of a sudden they find, I don't know,
it's something,
like swimming, and they just really get on with swimming, and all of a sudden their kid's obsessed with it. But they had to go for all those sports to find something they really liked. Sometimes they stumble upon it themselves at school, like when you're in the playground and you play football and you're like, I actually really like this. That's kind of obviously how I got into football as a kid. But really encourage them to try as many different things and really push what they like.
Yeah, and they'll watch you do it. If you set the standard, they'll probably follow.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
100%. Another question we got, Ryan, was tips for recovering from an ACL injury.
ACL injury, yeah, I've had a few of these. Have you had some ACL injuries that you've put clients through or rehabbed? Yeah,
I've helped rehab a decent amount, but I'm always keen to, listen to your side of things first, because I know who sent this question in.
For me, immediately, I think post-surgery, let's break it down. So there has to be a period of time where they're just getting back to normal movement and actually blood flow. So every day they need to be moving that kind of joint. I had a guy who blew it out twice, and the reason he blew it out a second time is because his recovery was terrible. He didn't recover in the right way. And he came to me on his second one and said, I just don't want to go through what I went through that first time. So just something as simple as getting on the exercise bike, I think it's very low impact. I'm really a big fan of that for rehabbing it. It also, generally when you're on an exercise bike, the pressure is in the ball of your foot. So you're putting a lot of weight through the anterior part of your leg into your kind of VMO, into your quad, a little bit of stress through the knee. So I'm a really big fan of the bike for rehab. And then it's just about very gently putting that knee through bigger ranges of motion. For me, that's the first thing you want to do before you even start loading the body up, increasing range of motion. And that might be something as simple as squats on a chair, squats on a bench, squats on a box. And then you build up to going a little bit lower. I really like squats on a bench, because what we tend to do is we tend to go from that kind of flat position, then we'll decline the bench, and then we'll start at the top here, and they'll just keep moving the bum down, and eventually we'll get them into quite a deep squat. But alongside that, there's a big strengthening aspect. Obviously, we mentioned VMOs. That's really, really important. We get that nice and strong. What's your kind of protocol when it comes to ACL?
I've worked with numerous people some people go down the surgery and then they rehab. Other people I've seen who don't actually have surgery at all if it's a minor tear, for example. Obviously, we'll work quite closely with physios and let them sort of green light what they're capable of doing and that sort of stuff. But there is a guy online called Ben Patrick who I will signpost everybody to. He's called the knees over toes guy.
Oh yes, I have come across this guy.
Insane. He does some really impressive stuff. And he'll introduce a lot of like backwards treadmill walking or sled walking. He'll do a lot of knees over toes, like heel elevated squats, which anything that's going to promote that knee to go over your toe a little bit more. So you're basically looking to promote what you call dorsiflexion, where you bring your toes up towards you. I think if you can do that, we think about what the knee's supposed to do. I see it as like a sliding door, because it's like it's essentially, it's not a ball and socket, it's basically just like a pivot point.
It's a hinge.
Yeah, it's a hinge. Yeah. So if you think of it being like a hinge, don't know why I said a pivot point. I see it like a sliding door. Sometimes it can come off the runners And that's when people can get knee problems sometimes. So if we can try and keep it on the runners, let the knee do what it's supposed to do by making, like what you said, the squats, making the hips more mobile and making the ankle more mobile.
Yep.
But ultimately, it's a tough one. Ligaments and that sort of stuff, you need a good bit of blood flow to it. So that's why I really like the backward sled walking, anything that's going to promote that knees over toe action in a not very painful way, but ultimately, especially when it comes to like returning to like football, for example, the guy who sent this in wants to get back into football, and there is quite a bit of, I think his ACL went when he tried to turn and studs got stuck in the ground. You hear that a lot, don't you?
That's usually how it happens.
Yeah, you hear that a lot. So, and even like women's football as well, like if there's any women footballers listening, ACL injuries are just mad popular in a bad way.
Football for a reason, because there's so much turning, twisting, especially on kind of hard ground, like if you're on grass and you've got studs, not only are your kind of studs in the ground, but you then got people clattering into you. That's kind of how my client who did his ACL had his injury. Planted foot, guy went into his knee, twisted. That was how it happened both times. My biggest thing when it comes to sports people as well is not going back too soon. That is that's so important. There's a reason why professional footballers can get back in like 6 months from an ACL, because they just have the best care. They are literally training it and exercising it every single day. General population people aren't doing that. They haven't got the best physios in the country working to get them back up and running. If my ACL went, I'd like to think I'd give it a lot of attention, but you're looking at somewhere more like a year, I would say. Give it plenty of time to recover, heal, do all the right exercises. You want to go back into sport knowing there's no issues. You don't want to go back in thinking, it's okay, it's my 80% there, I'm still getting a few niggles here and there, because as soon as you go back into full contact, people don't care about your knee. You're going to be cautious, but they're not. So you've got to be really careful about approaching football or just any sport when you get back into it.
I think you've summed that up really well, mate. Anything else to add on that? All right?
No, that's all good. Yeah, hopefully we've answered it well.
Lovely. So I love this next question, which is, if you only had 30 minutes to train, what 3 routines would you have in your back pocket?
Yeah, great question.
Yeah, I like
that
this.
was Dan that sent that one over. Firstly, it depends what you're training for. I think that let's start with muscle mass, for example. If we're trying to build muscle and we're trying to get strong, you've got 30 minutes, a few days a week. What would I do? Now, generally, I'm a big fan of supersets. I think if you've only got 30 minutes, time is of the essence. You want to get as much done in that kind of time frame as possible. And supersets work really well because you can work opposing muscle groups. So let's say you do a push and a pull exercise. While you're doing your pushing exercise, you're pulling muscles, your back are resting, and then vice versa once you switch. So I think that tends to work really well. Maybe some supersets to start with. You then maybe want to go into something potentially a little bit higher volume. I think if you're looking at building muscle, and you can usually get a lot done, maybe even like circuit format, giant set, stuff like that. You might have let's say you're doing legs, you might start with something for your quads. Let's say you do a front squat, you might then do some RDLs, and you might do those back to back, maybe 6, 8, 10 reps of each. You then might move to something like a giant set where you can get a lot covered in a short period of time. So you might do some walking lunges straight into, I don't know, some goblet squats. You might do some reverse lunges. Then you might do a wall sit, for example. And you have a little circuit that you go through. You complete that 3 times. That's 15 minutes. You've now got some really heavy stuff that you're doing in there. You've got some lighter stuff, some bigger volume things, and that can be done in 30 minutes. So you're packing a lot into a short period of time. But the biggest thing when it comes to exercising in short time frames is rest periods. We waste so much time on rest periods. If you have got 30 minutes, you need to have a timer set up by your exercises, by your station, just to click it on and just have 30 seconds, a minute, maybe 90 seconds tops.
Like you said about goal dependent, I think that's really important. If you just want to start something just to move for the sake of it, I just need some movement. I've got half an hour. My approach or my recommendation is probably going to be not different as such, but maybe a different way of thinking about it. If you're someone who wants to get stronger and you've only got 30 minutes to train, I'm going to challenge you just to do 1 compound lift. And just repeat. Make sure you have enough rest. If you're just going for like a big like compound bang for your buck movement. The other way to think about it is maybe, and I'm going back to how I trained in lockdown as well. So I used to train 5 times a week, 30 minutes long in lockdown. I just used to do push-pull legs, 10 minutes on a push, 10 minutes on a pull,
Brilliant.
10 minutes on a legs.
Cool.
And I really enjoyed that.
And that was all within the same session?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So rather than like spreading it across the week, it was just like 10 minutes of a push, 10 minutes of a pull, 10 minutes on a legs, and combined 30 minutes, full body. Yeah.
That can work really well because you get in, even though you're only doing one exercise for your legs in each session, the frequency of which you're training those legs over the week is actually quite high. And that can work as well. You can split it across. And that's definitely what I would say is more of a strength-based kind of approach, where you're not looking to break down and deteriorate muscle. You're looking to just, hammer it for a short period of time with one exercise.
Yeah.
But big fan of that as well. Yeah, for sure.
I'm thinking busy parents with that one's going to be quite a... Yeah, but both recommendations really.
Yeah. Let's say, for example, your goal's fat loss. That's probably the biggest goal in the world, really. I was going to say in the UK, but generally most people want to lose fat globally. What would be your 30-minute approach for fat loss?
Again, I think it's going to be volume and intensity. Those 2 words, managing whichever one you do, because you can have quite an intense session with not much volume, but you can also do. And when I mean volume, I mean like sets, reps, and load. Whereas if you've got 30 minutes, depends on your mindset. If you want to make the best use of that, reducing rest periods, supersets, giant sets, I'm full in agreement with what you said.
Would you stick more towards the weight-based stuff, or would you start to add in some more exercises that are maybe going to push the heart rate more? How would you approach that?
Again, depends on protocol. Depends. If it's just 30 minutes once a week, then I'm going to ask other questions.
Yeah.
But if it's a case of, 30 minutes a couple of times a week, I'd vary it. I really would. I think I'd almost see how you feel on the day, which is very wishy-washy. If you know that, all right, I'm going to push the intensity today, I might need an extra bit of rest period because I'm pushing the intensity. Whereas if I'm bothered about volume, I just need to push and just get through it.
Yeah, good advice. I think for me, I generally with fat loss clients like to keep the calorie burn in each session quite high. So I tend to do what's called conditioning workouts, where we have mainly weight-based stuff, some body weight-based stuff, where we're working muscles but in a circuit. I probably wouldn't go for as much of like the heavy stuff and the compound lifts. It'd be more volume. So we might pick 5, 6, 7, 8 exercises, put them in a circuit, work our way through them, and just make sure that they're really, really they're really intense, and they're definitely getting that person going. Which exercises you go for and how you format them will obviously depend on your level of ability, but you've got to keep it short, sharp, sweet, and look at those rest periods. Absolutely.
Love that. Next question we've got, Ryan, is if you were artists, what would you call your debut album? And when they put artists, I think they mean singers, songwriters. What would you call your debut album?
That's a great question.
I have thought about mine. If you want me to go first,
go on then. You go first, right, mate. I'm not prepared for this one.
Hair loss and service stations.
Brilliant.
No, I probably would go. I think it'd be something to do with a pun.
Okay.
I love puns.
Yeah.
So even if I call it like
Mr. Dad Joke.
Yeah. Or Mr. Dad Joke would be a good one.
Yeah.
Mr. Dad Joke.
Yeah.
But or maybe I don't know, something like pun interested or something like that.
Pun interested.
Yeah, it'd be something just really daft, really silly, or maybe something like Unsinkable 2, something that's got quite just like a daft meaning behind it. Yeah.
So what was it? It was, what would your debut album be?
Debut album be called? I feel like I've gone through our collaboration album, which is Service Stations and Hair Loss. Yeah.
Probably like, I don't know, something that's plagued me for years, like The Knackered Knees or something like that. Or sick Note. I'd probably be like
Sick Note,
because I have that many injuries and I'm always going on about how I'm injured. Probably Sick Note. Probably
Sick Note.
Yeah,
fair
Sick
play.
Note.
I respect it. It sounds like something Neo would do, so that's fair. Mate, nothing else to add to that.
No, that's pretty much
short,
it.
Sharp, sweet. Yeah. What are the best supplements in your opinion? We also had
best supplements. There's quite a few I already rate, but I think hands down for me, top of the list, best bang for your buck, without a shadow of a doubt, I think was creatine. I think it is the most studied supplement out there, and you'd be hard pressed to find any kind of bad studies, anything showing that it causes long-term damage that outweighs the short-term gain, really. So creatine is probably number one. Number two, I think, is probably protein, because most people generally don't get enough protein. when we're talking about protein supplement, generally I'm talking about powders, whey protein, casein protein, something along those lines. Not like your, snack bars and your protein bars. We've done obviously a little bit of an episode on that, snacking, friend or foe. That episode is available. A little plug for our own podcast there.
There we go.
But I think creatine and protein generally are top two for me.
I like that. I would echo it, but to add a bit more food for thought, vitamin D potentially, especially in a really grey country like England.
Absolutely.
We're really deficient in vitamin D, and it plays such an important part in energy production and that sort of stuff. And just, I think it was Connor Rhodes who said to me that vitamin D is not actually a vitamin, it's a hormone. That I will check in. I'll check in with him on that. That really blew my mind from a perspective standpoint. So it almost triggers a hormonal response from energy production, and I will check that with Connor.
It's part of the endocrine system. That's fascinating.
I'm going to check with Connor because I may have butchered it, and I may have thrown him under the bus.
It's not. I've got a feeling I've heard the same thing before. Yeah, I'm sure. It rings a bell that it's not like I'm listening to it thinking, I've not heard it.
Yeah.
Vitamin D, I'll call that. I think at number 3, vitamin D for me. Number 4, I will put probably ZMA or magnesium and zinc. I think for my clients, what that's brought to the table has been fantastic in terms of quality of sleep, developing some kind of sleep schedule, just getting a routine with and a habit, and making they call it REM sleep, don't they? Getting you into that deeper area of your sleep. That for me has been fantastic, and also for clients. So ZMA is something I would look into. Z obviously standing for zinc, magnesium. And I think the other one's, it's got some kind of B vitamin, isn't it? I can't remember what it is now.
We'll come back to you.
We'll come back to that one. Yeah,
we'll come back to
we'll confirm.
Even fish oils as well. Like, I'm a big fan of fish oils, just joint health, that sort of stuff. Because more often than not, people don't have enough. I think it's omega-3 and omega-6. They're the two that people probably don't have enough of.
Yep.
Definitely omega-3. So
for my dodgy joints, that's a staple for me.
Tablet form, not like. Have you seen it in the syrup? You can get it like. Mate, it used to be old school. I think my nan used to get it my mum, but on a spoon.
Wow. I once dropped a cod liver off the side and accidentally stepped on it and cleaned it up. I was like, Jesus Christ, what is it now? It smelled so fishy and horrible. Like it just been. And every time I see it now, I've made the mistake of actually smelling it. So every time I take it now, I have a little bit of a whiff of what happened when I broke it open. But well, basically just going through all the supplements that I take on daily, like protein, creatine, vitamin D. I take magnesium and zinc. I take cod liver. I also take vitamin C for an immune system. That's something that is a bit of a staple. Yeah. I've said for years I never get ill, and then this year I've been ill horrendously twice. So whether it's still working or not, I don't know, but I'm continuing to take it and staying optimistic there. I think that's it for my stack, really. Apart from my hair loss pills in there, and I've recently crept into the mix. That's pretty much my vitamin stack. Yeah,
I've got quite an obscure one that I heard Andrew Huberman talk about. Called L-theanine, which has two purposes really. I'll take it dependent. Sometimes I can have caffeine and get quite jittery. I don't know if you can see me now, like going a bit flush. If you're on YouTube, if I have enough caffeine, my brain starts to like go a bit 10 to the dozen. I can feel myself getting a little bit jittery.
That's pretty much the effects. It's one of the effects, mate. I'm not sure if you know that about caffeine. It does can make you a bit jittery.
I think some people it affects worse than others.
You feel like you get the jitters. Yeah. Is there a level in terms of milligrams where you notice that difference?
I've overdone it today. I know I have.
Have you?
Yeah,
really?
I know
you
I have.
You don't look jittery. Oh, that's interesting.
I'm quite. Yeah, it's in my feet, mate.
Is it? Your foot going underneath like that? We're gonna listen to the podcast back. It's gonna be Brad's foot.
That's what you can hear all the time. Hear tapping. But no, L-theanine can be used to like stabilize that feeling that you get.
Right.
So I've not took it today, obviously, which is why my foot's going crackers. But another reason you can take it is at night time. If you take it before you go to bed, it helps with the quality of sleep.
Yeah.
I will do everything else you can to get good quality sleep first. Yeah. Like make sure you get enough actual hours. Make sure that you have a good bedtime routine, etc. But L-theanine, the side effect that I've seen is I have some weird dreams. Like really vivid dreams.
So you take it before bed generally?
Yeah, not often. But if I feel like, do you know what, I feel a bit run down, I feel tired, I feel like I need some good quality REM sleep. Apparently it does increase quality of that REM sleep, and I can tell by some weird dreams I have.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cheese used to do that for me.
Any L-theanine in cheese?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked into that. Wasn't why I was taking it.
No,
It just tasted good.
So
But I used to eat a lot more cheese. I don't really eat that much anymore, but I generally found that my dreams on cheese were just like weird and intense, and I'd wake up like sweating. Those kind of like almost sometimes nightmarish dreams.
Yeah. I feel like we need to find an expert who knows about dreams, because it is fascinating.
Yeah, maybe that's our next podcast guest.
Maybe.
A sleep expert.
Sleep expert.
That'd be great. That'd actually be great to have on someone who just knows all about sleep.
Yeah.
That book we mentioned, Why We Sleep, it was Matthew Walker, wasn't it?
That's the one.
I doubt we'll get him on, mate.
Can ask for nothing. If anyone knows Matthew Walker, please
drop him a line for sure.
Send him our way.
We'll have him on.
He's only Nottingham, isn't he?
See, that's our vitamin stack anyway. We've gone wildly off topic as we always do, but that's generally what we recommend. Anything else that you want to add to the list apart from those?
No, I think it's a case of remembering the word supplement, because it's a supplement to healthy diet, etc. I'd be doing a big disservice if I didn't raise that.
Absolutely.
It's not going to fix all your problems. But
brilliant.
The other one, these two questions are quite long, so I might have to repeat them a couple of times. But
cool.
One of them was, do you think, as a father, a good physique is something that will be beneficial for your children to see by setting an example, by being fit and strong?
That's a brilliant question. Whoever's asked that, fantastic.
I'll shout him out, actually. It's a guy called John Truelove.
Brilliant question.
Great surname as well.
Brilliant question. Because it's what a debate this is, not just, I guess, in general population, but also in the fitness industry. There's this big debate about whether coaches should look in shape. And my opinion generally, from a coach's perspective, is this is the way I assess it, right? If you had a homeless guy running around town saying, I've got some brilliant financial advice for you. It's honestly, it will change your life. I've read all the books. I know about finances. Yes, I don't get me wrong. I'm living on that mattress there on the side, and I'm homeless. But I've got some great financial advice for you. Would you take him seriously?
I feel like I could be being punked. What if it's actually like Grant Cardone or like Elon Musk?
There's no punked. It's a genuine homeless man with some financial advice.
You'd think twice, wouldn't you? Compared to if someone in a nice flashy suit. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. It's image. It's integrity in terms of the message that you're trying to get across.
Yeah.
The same thing applies when it's a coach. If you aren't in shape, the integrity of your message is diminished. That's just my personal opinion. I know it's not everyone's, and I know some great coaches who are in fantastic shape. But for me personally, if I'm going to go to a coach, and I've got a coach at the moment, I want that person to be in shape. I want them to be leading by example.
Yep.
I want them to be challenging themselves and understanding what I'm going through to be able to really guide me.
That's a really good point. Being, like you said, about going through or being through what you're going through. I think that's really important.
Absolutely. They understand the process. They know how hard it is.
And as a dad, I think if you've had everything given to you and your life's been pretty easy, I think the quality of your life lessons probably aren't going to be very good. And that's quite, you can read as many books as you want, but it's not until you live it and you feel it and you experience it, you probably realise that, and not to instill your mistakes on them, to say, this is what I did, son, don't do this, or you don't want to do that. But I fully agree with what you've said, by the way, but in the next breath, a good physique isn't everything.
Agreed.
And I will say that quite hand on heart. I've seen some people who look fantastic, but they're not healthy. Like, the relationships might be rubbish, They might
and vice versa. I've seen some guys who, they're in shape, but not in amazing shape. But they're a machine. Like they're super fit, super strong. And I'm like, wow, this guy is. I mean, he doesn't look like your typical athlete, but this guy can shift.
Yeah.
And I also don't want to contradict myself. So, because on a previous episode, I said, and actually, I'm saying this, I made it into a little reel on Instagram as well. I can remember the one that I made, and it was all about how kids don't actually understand like fitness levels, and they might see different shapes of physiques, but they don't understand like how fit you are. They just see you moving. So, but I think that up until a certain point that changes. Like maybe when they start getting towards teenage years, maybe around, I don't know, like maybe earlier, like 9, 10, 11.
Yeah.
They then start noticing like who they want to look like and who their heroes are and what they look like. Like when I think about my heroes from childhood, I think about like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was just a manly, powerful guy, but he looked great and he trained. I think about like I don't know, like, a lot of my heroes were like footballers and athletes, and they looked good, and I wanted to look and be like them.
Yeah.
So I think to a certain degree, a kid wants to look like their heroes, and they're aware of how they look. But I don't think that comes until later on. The habits and the things you can instill in kids start from pretty much as soon as they start moving. And what you look like at that point maybe doesn't matter, but I'm probably toying with the idea that yes, it kind of does matter as you get older. Like if you want your kid to be in shape and, well, not in shape, but if you want your kids to be healthy and if you want your kids to be moving and active, promoting a message of looking good might be something that you want to promote.
Having a certain physique it's superficial, but it's also evidence. Yeah, if that makes sense. So more often than not, if you see someone walking down the street and they're in good nick, they've got certain behaviours to look that way. Yeah, unless they've been jabbing himself in arse. But it's a combination of both. They've still got like the daily discipline of training, eating right, that sort of stuff. So, so it's evidence, isn't it? Yeah.
For sure. And when I say look good, I'm not talking like bodybuilder, cover model style physique. I'm just talking about someone who's got a mild amount of muscle mass and a lower level of body fat, like maybe somewhere around 20%. Like that's in shape for me. That's someone who's got a mild level of muscle mass, around 20% body fat, and they can move pretty well. Yeah. That's in shape. Perfect.
I had a chat with my mate the other day, and when I said to him, like, he says, you know, did you want to be a fit dad? Do you know what I mean? Like he took that in quite a funny way. He's like, oh yeah, I want old school mums looking at me. No, actually means by being a fit dad, like you're there for your kid, you're active, injury free, you can do what you want with them. Yeah. But it's amazing how many people judge it on that superficial thing of, I want to look good in a t-shirt and some shorts and I'll pick my lad up.
Let's not beat around the bush. Like we all get into exercise for varying reasons. Usually as a kid because you're a bit insecure about a certain body part or the way you look, whether it is body fat levels, or it's usually your arms are skinny and you want bigger arms. I don't know what it is. We all get into it. Most of us get into it for, superficial reasons. We want to look good. But along the way, we realise, actually, this feels great. I feel better. Yeah. And generally, if you're training pretty hard and you are improving your body, it's rare that you won't look better as a result. How much better and how far you'll go with it is dependent on your style of training and genetics a little bit. Yeah. But, I think showing to your kids that, a good looking physique is related to health and fitness is not always a bad message. You don't want to put all the emphasis on like you have to look good, and you have to be really aware of even like little comments you make to kids, because they will just take that, especially teenagers, any small comments you make about their physique and the way they look, they will overthink that to the umph degree. So be very careful about how you kind of approach their looks and their appearance. But getting them into exercise and moving and promoting, just exercise in general is so important.
I think you summarised that really well. Yeah, really well. Ready for the last question?
Absolutely, hit me up.
This one's long.
Okay. Right.
What do you think are the fundamentals to focus on training when you're a parent? And they have added, you're sleep deprived, you're busy with work, and sometimes you're running on near empty. And there is a few other questions, but I'll go for that one first, which is fundamentals to focus on training when you are sleep deprived, busy at work, and running on empty.
I've literally this morning just come off the back of a session where the clients had the worst week with a child who's horrendously ill, 2 or 3 hours sleep for the last 5 days. And she's coming into the session, and I could just see it in her eyes. Her eyes were purple. she looks she's been battered with a baseball bat. It was not pretty. And part of it was like, should we call this session off? But she was like, no, I'm adamant, I'm here, I'm up, let's do it. I'm high on pre-workout, let's have some kind of session. Yeah. In that scenario, what we do is number one, very low skilled work, things that aren't going to take, a lot of coordination and balance, because that is going to be out the window.
No Olympic lifting.
No Olympic lifting, no jumping on boxes, none of that business. Yeah. So we're immediately going to look at things that are just very simple movements. And this morning we did nice and simple, just some deadlifts, we did some bench press, and we did some pull-ups, some negative pull-ups. There'll be the 3 exercises. We're not overwhelming the body. There's not too much stimulus. It was really low reps. We did warm-ups of around 10 to 15. Our working sets were all 5 reps. She set PBs across all 3.
Wow.
PBs across all 3. She did heaviest deadlift she's done since she's been training here. She did her heaviest bench press, and she used the least resistant band that we've got to do her negatives, which she hasn't used before. So I'm always amazed actually how strong the body is when it's fatigued. Now, this isn't saying that when you're fatigued, go and try and get PBs.
Yeah.
Always err on the side of caution. But generally, when your body's compromised and it is tired, I've always found there's some link to being like, right, on your main compound lifts, just kind of, bring the volume down and go for it a little bit. Why not?
I think when it comes to fundamentals to focus on with training, it's number one, movement if you can. Like, speaking about fatigue, central nervous system and how that actually works, you know that feeling when you are quite fatigued and, I don't know, nothing feels right. And I will state that comes from your central nervous system, your brain, your spinal column, that sort of stuff. One thing that I like to get into the weeds of people with is maybe like grip strength. Grip strength is quite a good indicator of how hard you can train.
That's right, yeah.
So if you've not got like a hand dynamometer, which they call like a grip strength test machine.
No one's got one, mate.
No one's got one of them.
no one's getting out of bed. So up in the side drawer, and they've got this dynamo. What did you got here?
Hand dynamometer.
Hand dynamometer. I'm very surprised.
I've got some interesting clients, mate.
No, but I don't know what your clients have got in their side drawer, mate. We won't go down that road.
We'll not go down that road. The other one is like hanging on a bar. Like,
okay,
that's
cool.
If you're in the gym, you're hanging on a bar, whether you do
and this is basically a test of fatigue, isn't it? Because we have this thing called heart rate variability, and a lot of watches now do this. So you wake up in the morning, they give you a HRV score, and based on that score, it'll tell you how well rested you are, how fatigued your body generally is based on the training and what's going on, sleep levels. But you can also do it through grip strength. It's a well-known way of and I've had it before in the morning where, I've got an early session and I'm moving some weights around. I'm like, I can't grip anything this morning. I have this thing where I can grip like a 20 kg bumper plate and I can move it around one hand. That for me is a gauge of like how fatigued I am. So if I can pick that up in the morning, I'm all right. If I can't, I know I'm pretty fatigued.
It's a good shout. And the reason why I mentioned about the hanging bar test is even if you do it at the start of every session, if you can figure out what your average is, so even if you do it and you open up notes in your phone and you make a note like, 9th of April, I did it for a minute. 10th of April, I did it for 55 seconds. Eventually, you'll come out with an average. Some days you might go past that, and it might mean that I feel good today. I'm going to push it in the gym.
Cool.
Or you could go under that, maybe like 45 seconds, and you think, I'm not really feeling this today. If you are someone who struggles to hang from a bar, you can still do it with your feet on the floor and just make sure that you don't use your feet too much.
Yeah.
But ideally, it's going to be hanging from a bar without your feet on the floor and just seeing what your grip strength's like. That, for me, I'd use that as a gauge almost. The other protocol is what you said, like potentially single joint movements rather than anything complex. If you're really struggling, if you had like 2 or 3 hours sleep, maybe look at just single arm moves, lat raises, leg extensions, that sort of stuff.
Really simple stuff, more of like your strength, bodybuilding style movements, I would say, as opposed to like your explosive stuff, plyometrics. But just going back to the heart rate variability thing, I'm a bit sceptical of those with some people. Reason being, I've had some clients come to me and they'll come into a session and they bounce through the door in great mood, look fine, and they go, "Oh, Ryan, we'll have to have a chilled session this morning." I'm like, "Why, what's going on?" He goes, "I woke up and my HRV is terribly low."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Okay, well, let's kind of get into the session. Let's see where we go." And then we start moving around, and I'm like, "This person's clearly fine. They're okay. Maybe they're a little bit fatigued, but I can get a good session out of them."
Yeah.
But they're a bit reluctant to push it because they know, my watch, this thing on my hand has told me I'm fatigued. I need to kind of go with that. Sometimes when you're fatigued and you need to get a good session done, you just got to bite the bullet sometimes and go for it a little bit. And that's obviously, the more you train, the more you understand your own body and when it's the right time to push when you're fatigued. Sometimes your body genuinely obviously needs a rest, but you'll know that. You'll know when that period of time is. If you are kind of 50-50 about it and you have to think, am I fatigued, am I not? Chances are you probably got a half decent session in you.
Yeah. Well put. The other half of this question was, how important is it to ensure you give yourself time for self-care to really look after your mental well-being as well? So not just the first half of the question was very training, physical side. This is all about self-care, mental well-being. So not so much how important it is. I'm probably going to change the question a bit, but I mean, what do you do from a mental well-being standpoint? Do you book out any time? Do you have any certain actions just to look after your head?
From a personal level? When I'm really overwhelmed and stressed, I book a holiday.
Sounds sustainable.
That's usually what I do. Yeah. When I get really, really like, I'm talking like I'm losing my marbles. I can't focus and I can feel like getting worse and worse over time. I'll book an holiday for like 2 weeks time. And I very rarely book holidays in like more than like 2 months in advance.
Yeah.
Just because I like to take holidays when I'm like really on like mentally death's door.
Yeah.
And it's a great reset. It really is. I mean, getting away and even just if it's not a full holiday, maybe it's just, you know, a day off, booking it off kind of thing. I think a day off from work, a day off from something, you know, social wise is really beneficial. But apart from that, I don't have many protocols. I think if I'm really fatigued and mentally I'm struggling a little bit, I will generally try and get out for more solo walks, like walks by myself where I don't take my phone and I just switch off and I'm able to think with a bit of clarity. So yeah, I usually go for walks if I need a little bit of mental clarity and just want to completely switch off. But aside from that, probably not massive amounts of protocols for dealing with like, you know, overwhelm really. You're getting me thinking now. Maybe I need to kind of
I think
have a few things in line.
Everybody's individuals, aren't they? And look, weirdly, me and Amy had this chat last night about how much like hard work I've got in me in terms of duration. I can work pretty hard for like 8 to 10 weeks. Anything beyond that point, I feel myself start to fatigue.
Right.
So I think we'd future-proof that a little bit. So probably every 3 months we'll try and do something. We'll have a breakaway, or we'll just do something. We'll make sure it's penciled in. So different to you in terms of not giving it 2 months. Like we've had our June holiday booked for, you know, a decent amount of time.
Yeah.
Because we know, don't we? Yeah.
What I will say is the way I do it isn't really like optimal, and I understand that not a lot of people can do it that way. But I think and I have to kind of plan it around Amy's holidays, but with Amy being a teacher, we're never more than like a few weeks away from a holiday, so it's pretty good in that respect. But yeah, I do find just like taking time off from work and even taking time off from the gym, working out why you're stressed and what you're overwhelmed about and why your mental health is suffering is really important. Let's look at some of the biggest factors for that. So number one at the moment globally is like social media. Do you need a break from social media? Number two is work, overwhelm from work. Do you need a break from work? Do you need a break from both? Like a break from both is really, really beneficial. Like just taking a weekend, but right, I'm not going to go on my phone. I'm going to put it on airplane mode, even deleting the apps off your phone and just going somewhere. Like whether it doesn't even have to cost any money. You can actually drive somewhere to the seaside, go for a walk, just switch off, get away. It's amazing how beneficial that can be. And whether you want to bring friends with you, spouses, family members, is completely up to you. But I think sometimes a bit of time by yourself is really important as well. Yeah,
no, I fully agree. And from like a daily practice perspective as well, I really like writing. I always have done. I feel like I'm going to sound like a writing nerd now, but yeah, not so much just from a journaling standpoint, but if I have to write something for work, I find that quite immersive, and I can sort of break off and chill out quite a bit from that. Something I'm going to try is something called Brain FM.
Brain FM?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is basically like, I don't know much about the company, but I know that they, almost like it sounds basically, so I regularly put headphones on when I'm working, when I'm typing, if I'm being creative, and it's quite scientifically backed to give you certain hertz in your ears or certain wave frequencies to almost help you focus. And I will try this out and I will feedback on it.
So having headphones on, I'm assuming like the noise cancelling type where it just takes out all external noise and just getting in your own zone.
But even things like binaural beats, so there's something called, I can't even say this, my favourite focus playlist on YouTube is something called Quantum Focus.
Quantum Focus, I have to check this out now.
It gives you like one frequency in one ear, one frequency in another. I can finish working from that and I feel pretty refreshed. It's weird.
I'm getting like the vibes of like alien sounds, like weird like noises.
Yeah, you could describe it like that actually.
Is it really that kind of weird frequency?
It's weird, but you just
don't
zone
do you
out.
sit and listen to that for?
I try and give myself like 45-minute blocks
really?
to do work,
Whoa.
But you just forget about it though. It's weird, yeah. There's no lyrics.
I'm always up for trying anything that makes me more productive, but I've never heard of that.
I'm going to have a look at Brain FM because apparently that's like top notch. So I'm going to check that out. But
I feel like my playlist, if I want to get really focused on my work, I'm completely opposite. I put like drum and bass on, like nothing with any words, just hardcore sounds that get me focused, a bit intense, a bit pent up, and I'm like, right, I've got to get on with this now.
Get it done.
Yeah, I'm a bit more on that kind of.
But no, even just things like journaling. I found out iPhone's got a pretty good feature where there's like a journaling app that you can do like Face ID, so your missus is not like opening your phone being like, what's it been saying? You know, so that's been pretty useful just to like document your life a little bit as well. Like big fan of like reflecting on, you know, things that I've done with Ted. So, and it prompts you as well. So it sort of prompts me at 9 o'clock every night. And I'm like, brilliant, I'll just make a little note how today's gone. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I really like that. It's like it's like a journaling app. So it kind of reminds you, just tells what you've been up to, what you've been doing. And some people are natural, like, journalists. They have diaries that they've been doing for years. And then some people, you know, it takes a bit of pushing. So I think something on your phone is a great idea. And you can become very reflective. And also, I've mentioned it on previous podcasts, but like manifesting and like, you know, talking about what you want and also what you're grateful for. Those are two fantastic practices of being like, right, this is where I'm heading, and this is where I have been and what I'm really grateful for. Yeah.
A lot of people journal when the going gets tough, in bad times, whereas if you can journal when things are good, that's probably a bit more like self-care based, if you know what I mean, because it's less
if
like...
You've got those journals when you're not feeling great. You've got some fantastic things to look over and be positive about.
There's another one called a 6-minute journal, which is like a physical paper copy. I may have got that as well. It might be shoved in Puffy somewhere. But no, that's really good. It's just 3 minutes in the morning, 3 minutes in an evening.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, hopefully we've given people some ideas there about kind of how to improve. What was the original question? I always forget. We all go off on so many tangents.
Yeah, we do. How important is it to give yourself time for self-care when it comes to mental well-being?
Well, I'm hoping we've said amazingly so.
I think
phenomenally so. Like, you know, you almost in today's world can't get enough. I don't ever feel guilty for like self-care and actually putting out that message to yourselves, but like, you know, I matter. Like it sounds selfish, but I am the most important person. If I'm not feeling right and I'm not performing optimally, it affects everyone around me from my relationships. And you see it sometimes in friends or even clients where they're just not themselves for a few weeks and they're quite negative, and you can see that energy around them. And you can tell someone's playing on the mind and they don't really realise it, but they're not themselves. They're like, it's a bit like... what was that advert for that chocolate bar? Was it the You're Not Yourself when you've had a Snickers bar? Was it?
Yeah, that's the one.
It's a light-hearted message, but it's also quite a serious message. Like that same thing applies when, you know, you're not yourself. Like it's written on your face. So don't ever be afraid to kind of put more into your self-care and how you're feeling and you being the best you.
Yeah, just need to treat yourself like someone worth helping.
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah. Great, well put.
Ryan, that's it for the questions we've had.
Fantastic, mate.
If people have got questions, Ryan, where can they send questions to?
The best place is probably our DMs and Instagram, amongst all the other things we get. No comment on those. We don't get anything, by the way. That was a complete joke. No. Just DMs on Instagram is great. Throw in there. We would like to do another Q&A podcast. I think these generally are great for... just letting off some kind of common questions and issues and sticking points that people have. So, any questions and things of that nature you've got, throw them in our DMs. My Instagram is @R5online, and Brad's...
Mine is @ThompsonTraining_, which we've discovered I can't get the underscore removed yet, but I'm trying.
Not offering enough money, mate. That's what it is.
I'll get on at them.
And again, just to reiterate, if you guys are finding value from the podcast, hashtag
Forward the Fit Dads.
Forward the Fit Dads. Why do I keep forgetting that? I don't think it posted on my iPad here.
It'll stick.
Pass the pod on, and then Forward the Fit Dads. Let's get it shared, and we want to reach a wider audience. So we'd really appreciate that. Thank you guys. Thanks for joining us on this episode, and we'll see you lot on the next one.
Thanks for joining.